Most people think dividend investing is easy. Buy one ETF, hold it, retire rich. Sounds good, right? But here's the problem. That's only half the story. The real key is this. You need different ETFs at different stages of your life. Get this right, and your retirement income doesn't just grow, it explodes. We're talking about turning a $10,000 investment today into $15,000 a month when you retire. Today, I'm revealing the 3 dividend ETFs you need at every stage of your life. One for your 30s and 40s, another for your 50s. And the one that can supercharge your income after retirement. I'll break down exactly why each ETF matches your lifestyle at that stage, and by the end, you'll see how following this strategy could transform a $10,000 investment today into a massive retirement income. The truth is, your relationship with dividends changes completely depending on where you are in life. In your 40s, you're in your prime working years. You've got your job, maybe a side hustle. Your income is mostly active. So, do you really need an extra $500 a month in dividends right now? Not really. What you need is compounding. Every dollar you invest has 20 years to multiply, and the secret weapon is reinvesting those dividends. This is where time is your greatest ally. That's why your ETF should lean toward growth and compounding. And yes, seeing those dividend checks every quarter isn't just cash, it's motivation. It keeps you in the game for the long haul. But once you hit your 50s, the picture changes. Suddenly, time feels shorter. You don't want to grind as hard. You want more freedom, more family time, more life. Now, passive income starts to matter. You still want growth, but you also need yield. The ETF for this stage has to strike a balance, still compounding, but also paying you enough that you can feel it. And then, retirement. The game flips entirely. You're not topping your portfolio with active income anymore. Now, dividends are the paycheck. They pay the bills, they fund the travel, they let you live without worry. Here, the priority shifts away from compounding and into sustainable high yield. But the ETF you pick has to deliver real monthly cash flow without draining your nest egg. So here's the big idea. Dividend investing is dynamic. If you can match the right ETF to the right stage of life, a modest portfolio can transform into life-changing income. And today, we'll break it down step by step. One ETF for your 40s, one for your 50s, and one for retirement. Starting with one of the most overlooked dividend growth ETFs out there. CGDV. Let's put ourselves in Nate's shoes. He's 40, mid-career, with 20 years until retirement. Does he need dividends to cover the bills? Not yet. His paycheck and maybe a side hustle take care of that. What he really needs is growth and compounding. That's where CGDV, the Capital Group Dividend Value ETF, comes in. Unlike most dividend ETFs that chase high yields, CGDV focuses on companies with serious earnings growth and strong dividend policies. Translation? Your portfolio isn't just paying out income, it's snowballing, reinvesting, and building wealth at high speed. And here's the surprising part. CGDV has actually beaten the S&P 500 on total return since launching in 2022. That's rare. Most dividend ETFs lag behind the market, but CGDV delivers both growth and income. So what's under the hood? You'll find names you probably know: Microsoft, Broadcom, JP Morgan, and AbbVie. These aren't just reliable blue chips. They're companies with strong balance sheets and a track record of both innovation and rising dividends. That mix is exactly what makes CGDV stand out. It captures the upside of growth leaders and the dependability of dividend payers. Now let's check the numbers. Assets under management, around $19 billion. Expense ratio, 0.33%, low for active management. Dividend yield, just 1.3%. So this isn't about instant cash. Dividend growth, 11.5%. Share price growth, around 20%. Put those together and you've got a compounding engine. A simple $10,000 one-time investment could have grown to nearly $70,000 in 10 years, while collecting about $4,800 in dividends along the way. So even though the yield looks small, CGDV quietly builds a wealth machine in the background and still gives you a steady drip of passive income. That's why it's the perfect ETF for your 40s. But here's the catch. Once you're 10 years away from retirement, growth alone won't cut it anymore. That's when the game changes. SCHD. Fast forward 10 years, Nate is now 50, with just a decade left before retirement. Suddenly, the clock is ticking louder. He's no longer just focused on building wealth. He's thinking about protecting it and making sure his money starts paying him back. This is where SCHD, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, steps in. SCHD is often called the king of dividend investing. Why? Because it pulls off a balance that almost no other ETF can: a strong yield, reliable dividend growth, and steady price appreciation. In plain English, it pays you today and it keeps raising those payouts for tomorrow. And take a look at its holdings. PepsiCo, Home Depot, Coca-Cola, Broadcom. These aren't risky bets. These are the brands you use every single week, with cash flows strong enough to keep sending checks even in a recession. At 50, that kind of stability and reliability is gold. Now the numbers. Over $70 billion in assets under management. Expense ratio, 0.06%, basically free. Dividend yield, around 3.8%, which means you actually feel the cash flow. Dividend growth, 8.6% per year. Share price growth, around 7.6%. Put that together and here's what it means for Nate. A simple $10,000 investment at age 50 could grow to around $31,000 by age 60, while also paying out nearly $8,000 in dividends along the way. That's income you can use now without slowing down your portfolio's growth. That's why SCHD is perfect for your 50s. It balances compounding with cash flow you can actually enjoy. But here's the real question. What happens when you finally hit 60 and every single dollar has to come from your portfolio? That's when the strategy shifts one last time. QQQI. Now let's jump to retirement. Nate is 65 and he's clocked out of his career. No more paycheck, no more side hustle. From here on, every dollar has to come from his investments. That means the strategy shifts from growth and balance to pure, reliable income. Enter QQQI, the Global X NASDAQ 100 Covered Call and Growth ETF. QQQI is built for retirees. It tracks the NASDAQ 100, but adds a covered call strategy, selling options on its holdings to generate cash. The result? A massive 14.2% yield paid monthly. And this isn't a theory. Since early 2024, QQQI has delivered steady dividends of around 60 cents per share every single month. For someone living off passive income, that kind of reliability is gold. Now here's the catch. With most covered call ETFs, they usually bleed away their NAV over time. QYLD is the classic example. But QQQI flips the script. It's actually grown its NAV while paying those sky-high dividends. How? Because it's built on the NASDAQ 100, heavyweights like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Amazon. The calls limit some of the crazy upside, but QQQI still captures about 98% of the NASDAQ's gains, while handing you one of the highest yields in the market. And if you want the full breakdown of how QQQI pulls this off, I actually covered it in detail in my previous video. You might want to check that one out after this one. Let's put it in dollars. A $10,000 one-time investment at retirement could grow to about $63,000 in 10 years, while also paying out over $41,000 in dividends. That's 4 times your initial investment, just in cash flow without ever selling a single share. And that's why QQQI is perfect for retirement, high yield, monthly income, and real staying power. But here's the big question. What if you didn't just pick one? What happens when you combine CGDV, SCHD, and QQQI into a single stage-by-stage retirement strategy? That's where the numbers get jaw-dropping. Now let's see how this strategy actually plays out. Start with just $10,000 at age 40. You begin with CGDV, reinvesting every dividend. Over the decade, your balance snowballs to about $70,000, and along the way, you've collected around $4,800 in dividends. Small payouts, but they fuel the compounding engine. At 50, you pivot into SCHD, the dividend king. By age 60, that $70,000 has grown into nearly $220,000. And the dividends? They've added up to about $8,000 in cash flow during the decade. Now you're starting to feel those checks in your pocket while still growing your nest egg. And then comes retirement. You roll everything into QQQI with its 14.2% yield. Your portfolio immediately throws off $31,361 a year. That's about $2,613 every single month. This isn't just growth anymore. It's real spendable income you can live on without touching the principal. But here's where it gets wild. If you keep reinvesting in QQQI for another 10 years, your monthly income doesn't just grow, it explodes to $15,800, and your portfolio now worth over $1.4 million. From just $10,000 at age 40, you've built wealth, collected dividends every step of the way, and ultimately created a retirement income stream most people only dream of. And that's the power of matching the right ETF to the right stage of your life. So here's the real takeaway. Dividend investing isn't one size fits all. It evolves with you. In your 40s, it's about compounding. In your 50s, it's about balance. And in retirement, it's about income you can truly live on. That's why CGDV, SCHD, and QQQI aren't just ETFs. They're the right partners for every stage of your financial journey. And if you're hungry for even more ETF strategies, don't stop here. Tap the video on your screen right now to discover the next game changer for your portfolio.